Is now is Congressman Darrell, Issa, the ranking member of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. He's calling the proposed stimulus plan nothing more than an $825 billion earmark, and I take it from that comment, Congressman, you're not for this thing. What are you for? Let me ask you, what are you for?
You know, I'm for the shovel-ready projects, the infrastructure projects that are so talked about. The problem is they represent less than 12 cents on every dollar in the stimulus. The vast majority of the dollars go to new programs. There's 32 new programs, which actually add up to more than the shovel-ready programs. Additionally, the nature of this, besides the tax cuts, which I think are some of the poorest conceived tax cuts I've ever seen, at a time when you need to accumulate capital, you're saying, well, we're going to give it to people who are so poor that they don't even actually qualify for this, except by us giving them back what they paid in their payroll taxes, essentially Social Security taxes. Those people, what they really need is the opportunity to have credit markets working again. Credit markets are working again come from capital being consolidated and made available. This bill does nothing for that. There is one thing that I would say was constructive today. Those 13 CEOs going to the White House, the show of public confidence that corporate America is getting going again, that they believe that the bottom is before us and not very far before us, is a good thing. And hopefully we can all realize that public confidence is what we should be doing, not simply creating new entitlements that will never go away.
Well, Congressman, let me ask you about that. President Obama says that this is going to create 3 to 4 million jobs. Do you agree with that assessment? And if so, what sectors do you think would hire?
Well, first of all, it's certainly going to make bankruptcy lawyers very happy, because yesterday the Judiciary Committee included a cram down provision that is going to cause everyone to say, well, why don't I just cram down my existing loan, even if it's performing, if my home has gone down? So on the sidelines, there's a lot of things that are going to enable certain groups to make a lot of money. But let's just accept President Obama at his word. 3 million new jobs, almost $1 trillion in cost, over $300,000 per job created. And remember, these are temporary jobs. Those construction jobs will last as long as there's shovel in the ground. So these are some of the most expensive jobs.
Congressman, the reason I ask you this, though, is because a lot of the money is not going to be allocated in 2009. A lot of the money, the bill, will be spent in years later, and we're in a recession now.
Well, you're exactly right. If you look at Ronald Reagan's investment tax credit, he could say at the time that those came around that you have to spend it this year in order to get the credit this year, which means you have to buy that machinery or that vehicle. Those kinds of targeted tax cuts, you knew exactly when they were going to be spent, or there wasn't going to be a cost to the government. These are ones that could easily linger into the second Obama term. They're that lengthy in some of the programs.
Congressman, there was remember the catastrophe in Minneapolis where the bridge fell down, and right away you folks came back to Washington. In August of 2005, you passed a massive highway spending bill, $286 billion. What happened to that? And wasn't that infrastructure spending for roads?
Well, actually, one of the interesting things about those bills, and the reason that we do transportation infrastructure bills for 5 or 6 years, is it takes that long for the money to get through the system. There is a valid bipartisan recognition that we have not been spending enough on our roads and bridges, that if we're going to have a good economy, one that's fuel efficient, we have to stop people from being stuck in long traffic lines. We have to get rid of the potholes. But that's something that we need to commit to do over the next decade at an amount probably twice what we've been spending. Very different than the stimulus package. The stimulus package has to cause people to be confident to go out and spend money wisely. This bill doesn't do it. It doesn't get them to spend it now, and it doesn't have anything particularly to make it wisely. If you give people back money, I know that's popular with Republicans and Democrats, but there has to be some sort of incentive for it to lead to more jobs, to get that multiple. Nothing in this bill does that.
Well, Issa, this is Tracy Burns. I've said this before. I think you're the smartest man in the room down there. How come neither House or the Senate are talking about lowering the corporate tax rate? I agree with you. Those tax cuts were a joke. I went through them. There was nothing there, quite frankly. Why is there no talk about lowering this corporate tax rate? We are the highest in the world next to Japan.
Well, absolutely, and it was mentioned by the previous administration, but, you know, look, the Democrats are being who they are. They're producing 32 new permanent federal programs. That's part of what they do. Republicans are still trying to be Democrat-light. At some point, no matter how small our numbers get, we will not start turning around and appealing to the American people until we're the party of making sure that we spend less, spend it well, and leave the rest of the private sector with appropriate safeguards. That's what we talk about, but so far we've been, well, we'd like to spend it a little different. We can't be trimming around the edges. I will tell you, there's nothing in this bill that justifies the amount of waste that's also in this bill.
Well, Congressman Darrell Issa from California, I think we know how you're going to be voting later today. We appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
and I'll be whipping others.
Great.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, you and many others. Great to see you, sir. All right.